Hi all, today's class is about the aromatic amino acid phenylalanine. Phenylalanine is denoted by the three-letter abbreviation called as PHE or by a single letter abbreviation with a capital F. It is an essential amino acid, otherwise known as indispensable amino acid, which means that the carbon skeleton cannot be synthesized in the human beings, and it has to be essentially provided in the diet. The other essential amino acids are, you can remember with the mnemonic PBT Tim Hall, with P for phenylalanine, valine, threonine, tryptophan, isoleucine, methionine, leucine, and lysine. Histidine and arginine comes under the category of semi-essential amino acid. Tyrosine will not come under essential amino acid. Please remember that since it is produced from the phenylalanine. So threonine and tryptophan belongs to essential amino acid category. This phenylalanine has a benzene ring, which means that it is an aromatic amino acid. Based on the metabolism, it is partly glucogenic and partly ketogenic amino acid. You can remember with the mnemonic LIPT, L for lysine, isoleucine, phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan are partly glucogenic and partly ketogenic amino acid. As you know, leucine is purely ketogenic amino acid. Well, the rest of the other amino acids are purely glucogenic amino acids. So phenylalanine is provided in the diet since it is an essential amino acid. So coming to the degradation pathway, this phenylalanine is converted to tyrosine. See the structure, this phenylalanine has a benzene ring, right? So tyrosine has a OH group attached to the that is benzene ring. So it has a phenol group. With addition of OH group to the phenylalanine, it becomes tyrosine. This is catalyzed by the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase. So phenylalanine hydroxylase catalyzes the conversion of phenylalanine to tyrosine. So this is an irreversible reaction, which means that tyrosine cannot be converted to phenylalanine, and hence phenylalanine is essential in the diet. If the diet is provided with the tyrosine, there is a minimal need for phenylalanine, and hence this is called as a sparing action of tyrosine on phenylalanine. So this phenylalanine hydroxylase is a monooxygenase enzyme. Monooxygenase enzyme means one molecule of oxygen, it needs one molecule of oxygen. This one atom of oxygen is incorporated in the synthesis of tyrosine, while the other atom is reduced to water. This is the monooxygenase system. This phenylalanine hydroxylase also needs tetrahydrobiopterin, NADPH, and NADH. This tetrahydrobiopterin is an electron carrier. So it has to get regenerated since it is not synthesized from the vitamin. It is synthesized in the body by the GTP, guanosine triphosphate, in a limited amount. So it has to get regenerated. For the regeneration, it needs an enzyme called as dihydrobiopterin reductase. This enzyme needs NADPH. The conversion of the regeneration of the coenzyme needs NADH. So this phenylalanine needs tetrahydrobiopterin, NADPH, and NADH. This tetrahydrobiopterin is needed for the synthesis of dopamine and serotonin also. So the disorder associated with phenylalanine metabolism is called as the phenylketonuria. We call it as PKU. So there are 5 types of phenylketonuria. Type 1 is the classical form in which there is a defect in the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase. Type 2 and 3, there is a deficiency of the enzyme of dihydrobiopterin reductase. Type 4 and 5, there is deficiency of the enzyme needed for the synthesis of biopterin. So there are 5 types of phenylketonuria. And the incidence, it is 1 in 10,000 births. With the newer current diagnostic technique, the incidence seems to be 1 in 1,500. In India, the statistics is really low when compared to that of the Western statistics. It is 1 in 25,000 births. So we'll see the biochemical abnormalities in case of phenylketonuria. As you know, phenylalanine cannot be converted to tyrosine, and the accumulated phenylalanine will enter into an alternative pathway for catabolism. So this phenylalanine undergoes transamination to form phenylpyruvate. This phenylpyruvate undergoes reduction to form phenyllactate, or it can be decarboxylated to form phenylacetate. This phenylacetate conjugates with glutamine to form phenylacetyl glutamine. So in the alternative pathway of phenylalanine metabolism, you'll get phenyl pyruvate, phenyl lactate, phenyl acetate, and phenyl glutamine. So these three compounds are excreted in the urine. Phenyl pyruvate, phenyl lactate, and phenyl acetate, they are excreted in the urine if you analyze the sample. So what are all the clinical manifestations of phenylketonuria? So this disorder is transmitted as an autosomal recessive triad. So what do you mean by that? The homozygous is going to manifest the disease while the heterozygous are going to be carriers. In case of classical phenylketonuria, the patient is going to be mentally retarded with IQ of 50. And these patients will experience the neurological manifestations like agitation, hyperactivity, tremors, and seizures because this phenylalanine interferes with the neurotransmitter synthesis. As you know, tetrahydrobiopterin is needed for the synthesis of dopamine and serotonin. And because of the tetrahydrobiopterin regeneration defective here, this phenylalanine cannot be converted to tyrosine, and hence these patients will present with neurological manifestation. Also, this patient will be having a hypopigmentation since phenylalanine cannot be converted to tyrosine, and tyrosine is needed for melanin synthesis, which gives the skin pigmentation. So the patients will be having hypopigmentation. Also, mousy order because the phenylacetic acid is going to get excreted in their sweat. Also, if you examine their urine, there will be increased phenyl ketones. Coming to the lab diagnosis of phenylketonuria, if you examine their blood level, so blood phenylalanine will be normal if it is 1 milligram per deciliter. In case of phenylketonuria, it is more than 20 milligram per deciliter, and this can be demonstrated by chromatography. The other investigation is tandem mass spectrometry, which is really more reliable and it is costly. Guthrie's test is a rapid screening test. It's a kind of bacterial inhibition assay in which the blood is collected in a Guthrie card. This Guthrie card has to be duly filled. The patient information has to get filled, and from the heel prick, the sample will be obtained and it is collected in a required spot on the Guthrie card. So the blood specimen is obtained from the heel of the specimen. It could be either from the medial or the lateral side. So the blood should be collected at 24 hours of age. In order to ensure, we need to give the adequate time for enzyme and amino acid development. Also, it cannot be done in premature infants because it shows the false positive reaction due to the immaturity of the liver enzyme system. Also, the sample should be taken prior to the administration of antibiotics or blood transfusion. This is a procedure of Guthrie's test in which you need to take the agar plate cultured with the Bacillus subtilis, and this growth of Bacillus subtilis is inhibited by the inhibitors thionylalanil, and hence the Bacillus subtilis will not grow. And the blood spot collected from the patient is placed over the agar plate and it is incubated overnight. So on the next day, if you examine, there will be growth of the bacteria because increased phenylalanine will overcome the inhibition. So you can able to visualize the growth of the bacteria, and you need to measure the diameter of the bacterial growth zone, and you have to compare it with the control chart. So this is a picture showing the large growth on a plate, and this is the absent growth, and this is said to be a abnormal growth. So this is a rapid screening test for the diagnosis of phenylketonuria. One more test is the ferric chloride test, which is a less reliable test. How to do this test is you need to take 5 ml of fresh urine sample, need to add 3 to 4 drops of ferric chloride solution. So in case of phenyl pyruvate, it gives a transient blue-green color. So this is considered to be a less reliable test. There are also DNA probes, which is a genetic test for the diagnosis of the phenylketonuria. They diagnose the defects in phenylalanine hydroxylase and dihydrobiopterin deficiency. So what is the treatment policy here is you need to early detect the case of phenylketonuria, since every 10 weeks of delay, the IQ is going to lose by 5 units. And you have to be carefully plan their diet. It should be low in the phenylalanine, and foods like tapioca, which is cassava, they have a low phenylalanine content. So this diet should be continued for till the first decade. Also, you should be very careful in a pregnant mother who is phenylketonuria positive. You need to give the special diet for them also, as phenylalanine will affect the brain of the developing fetus. Hi all. This class is about the aromatic amino acid tyrosine. It is designated as the three-letter abbreviation TYR or by the single letter abbreviation capital T. They belong to the category of aromatic amino acid. It has a phenol group, that is benzene ring with a OH group attached to it is called as a phenol group, right? So the special group in tyrosine is phenol group. It is a non-essential amino acid because it is synthesized from the phenylalanine, as I have said earlier, right? So it is a non-essential amino acid. Based on the metabolism, it is partly glucogenic and partly ketogenic amino acid. The other partly glucogenic and partly ketogenic we were discussed. They are lysine, isoleucine, phenylalanine, tyrosine, and tryptophan. You can remember with the mnemonic LIPT, right? So as I have said earlier, this tyrosine is synthesized from the phenylalanine. If the diet is supplied with the tyrosine in an adequate amount, they spare the need of phenylalanine. That is, the phenylalanine need is very minimal if you provide adequate tyrosine in the diet. This is known as the sparing action of tyrosine on phenylalanine. Coming to the catabolism for tyrosine and phenylalanine are similar, right? So after the formation of tyrosine from the phenylalanine, this phenylalanine is catalyzed by the phenylalanine hydroxylase to form tyrosine, which we have discussed earlier. This phenylalanine hydroxylase needs tetrahydrobiopterin, NADPH and NADH. Phenylalanine hydroxylase is a monooxygenase enzyme. It needs molecular oxygen in which one atom of oxygen is incorporated in the formation of tyrosine. So after the formation of tyrosine, this tyrosine is catalyzed by the enzyme tyrosine transaminase. So there is a transamination reaction is taking place. The tyrosine is transaminated to form para-hydroxy phenylpyruvic acid. So this is a phenylalanine structure, phenyl group with alanine. So when a OH group is attached to the benzene ring, it is called as the phenol group, right? So the special group in tyrosine is phenol group. So this is the tyrosine. Tyrosine catalyzed by the enzyme tyrosine transaminase to form. This is a para position. This is the first position. This is a para position. So para-hydroxy, this is a phenol group, and the pyruvic acid, right? So para-hydroxy phenyl pyruvic acid. So tyrosine is transaminated to form para-hydroxy phenyl pyruvic acid. As you know, all the transamination reaction needs pyridoxal phosphate as its coenzyme, right? So transamination gives para-hydroxy phenyl pyruvic acid. Transamination means the transfer of amino group from one amino acid to keto acid to form new amino acid and a second keto acid. So para-hydroxy phenyl pyruvic acid is produced upon transamination of tyrosine. It is a PLP dependent enzyme, and this reaction is induced by glucocorticoids. The next step is the formation of homogentasic acid. You know, from phenylalanine, tyrosine is produced. This tyrosine undergoes transamination reaction to form para-hydroxy phenyl pyruvic acid. Next, it is catalyzed by the enzyme para-hydroxy phenyl pyruvate hydroxylase to form dihydroxy. There is two OH group, right? So dihydroxy phenyl. This is an acetic acid. So dihydroxy phenyl acetic acid. This substance is otherwise known as homogentasic acid. This reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme para-hydroxy phenyl pyruvate hydroxylase enzyme. This enzyme needs ascorbic acid. Here there is removal of one carbon dioxide here to form homogentasic acid. It is a dioxygenase enzyme. This para-hydroxy phenyl pyruvate hydroxylase is a dioxygenase enzyme which needs copper. The next step is this homogenesic acid is converted into a linear molecule called as mallyl acetoacetic acid. So this homogenesic acid is cleaved to form a linear molecule catalyzed by the enzyme homogentisate oxidase. This enzyme is also a dioxygenase enzyme which needs iron at its active site. So from phenylalanine, tyrosine is produced by phenylalanine hydroxylase. This tyrosine undergoes transamination reaction to form para-hydroxyphenyl pyruvic acid. This para-hydroxyphenyl acid is catalyzed by the hydroxylase enzyme to form newer OH group to form dihydroxyphenyl acetic acid. This is the homogenesic acid. One more important point is there is an addition of OH group here, and there is a movement of the side chains from the para to the meta position. So there is a formation of homogenesic acid. This homogenesic acid is catalyzed by the enzyme homogentisate oxidase to form mallyl acetoacetic acid. This is also a dioxygenase enzyme. The next step is the isomerization of the mallyl acetoacetic acid. It gets isomerized to form the substance fumarate acetoacetic acid. There is a cis-2 trans isomerization occurs. So here this isomerase needs glutathione as a cofactor. So from phenylalanine, tyrosine is produced. This tyrosine undergoes transamination to form phenyl pyruvic acid. It is catalyzed by the enzyme hydroxylase to form homogenesic acid, otherwise known as dihydroxyphenyl acetic acid, which undergoes that is oxidation to form mallyl acetoacetic acid by the enzyme homogentisate oxidase. Next, there is the isomerization of mallyl acetoacetic acid to form the fumarate acetic acid. Para-hydroxyphenyl pyruvate hydroxylase needs copper, homogentisate oxidase needs iron, mallyl acetoacetate isomerase needs glutathione. After the formation of fumarate acetoacetic acid, they undergo hydrolysis. So they form fumaric acid and acetoacetic acid. This fumaric acid enter into the glucogenic pathway and acetoacetic acid enter into the ketogenic pathway. So phenylalanine and tyrosine are partly glucogenic and partly ketogenic amino acid. Till now, we have seen the catabolism of phenylalanine and tyrosine. Next, we'll see about the products derived from the tyrosine. So the products derived from the tyrosine are melanin, catecholamines, which includes dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, and thyroxine. So these are the compounds, the products derived from the tyrosine. Let's see one by one. First, we'll see about the melanin. Melanin is a substance that gives dark color to the skin and hair. So how it is formed from tyrosine? So there are many sequence of steps are there. The first two steps is catalyzed by the one single enzyme. So all the other reactions are non-enzymatic and they occur spontaneously. Let's see the formation of melanin from the tyrosine. So tyrosine is catalyzed by the enzyme tyrosinase to form dihydroxyphenylalanine. This is a phenyl group, alanine group, phenylalanine. There are two OH group in it. So this is the dihydroxyphenylalanine. In a simpler term, we call it as DOPA. So it is a monooxygenase enzyme. One oxygen atom is incorporated into a product, right? So it is a monooxygenase enzyme. This enzyme needs copper. So the tyrosinase in the melanoblast, they produce the DOPA, which is used for the melanin synthesis. The next step is also catalyzed by the similar enzyme, which is a copper-dependent enzyme. They act on the DOPA, dihydroxyphenylalanine, which is catalyzed by the enzyme tyrosinase to form dopaquinone. So first, from the tyrosine, DOPA is synthesized, catalyzed by the enzyme tyrosinase. This DOPA catalyzed by the similar enzyme tyrosinase in the melanoblast to form dopaquinone. This dopaquinone, by series of decarboxylation and oxidation of the side chain, they form indoquinone. This indoquinone, they get polymerized to form melanin. So melanin is a product derived from the random structures, that is from the endoquinone. So endoquinone, they polymerized to form melanin. Melanin, upon reduction, they get converted from the black color to the tan. So what is the difference between the tyrosinase and tyrosine hydroxylase? This tyrosinase, which is present in the melanoblast, which is used for the melanin synthesis. The tyrosine hydroxylase is present in the adrenal medulla, and they are utilized for the catecholamine synthesis. So in case of albinism, albinism is a condition in which tyrosine is deficient. Here the synthesis of epinephrine is normal. The tyrosinase present in the melanoblast is utilized for the melanin synthesis. Let's see about the structure of a melanocyte. So this melanocyte, they are present in the deeper layer of the epidermis. As you know, there are 5 layers of epidermis, right? Stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum spinosum, stratum spongiosum, and stratum basale. This is a stratum basale. These melanocytes are distributed in the deeper layer of the epidermis. So the synthesis of melanin occurs as a granular form within the as a melanosome. In the melanocyte, the melanin are produced in a granular form as a melanosomes. So melanosomes, these melanosomes within the melanocyte, they are transferred from the melanocyte to the neighboring keratinocytes, and they form the perinuclear caps. This is how the melanin is distributed. So melanin is synthesized from the melanocyte. This melanin is synthesized as a granular form within the melanosomes. So these melanosomes are the lysosome related organ. These are all the yellow structure is the melanosome. They are related to the lysosome related organs. They occur within the melanocyte. They have the melanin producing enzymes where the melanin is synthesized, and they are distributed across the keratinocytes. The pigment granules thus provides tissues with a color and also protects the skin from the UV light, and hence it is photoprotective. So where do this melanoblast are formed in the body? So it is of the neural crest origin. You would have learned in the embryology class, right? So they are produced from the neural crest origin. After it is formed, they need to have a dorsolateral migration. So it has to move towards and colonize the skin that is in the epidermis. So the neural crest origin, they need to have a dorsolateral migration, and they move and colonize the epidermis. So the color of the skin depends upon the distribution of the melanoblast, concentration of the melanin within the melanocyte, and its state of oxidation. So this is a histological picture of the skin showing the melanocyte. The dark brown granules are the melanin pigment. The extracellular granules, they are later dispersed under the influence of the hormone called as melanocyte stimulating hormone, which we termed it as MSH. This MSH, they have a 13 amino acid sequence, and they constitute a part of the ACTH. The amino terminal part of ACTH is constituted by the alpha MSH, which has 13 amino acid. So alpha MSH has a weak ACTH activity, and ACTH has a weak MSH activity. So the melanin is found in the pigment epithelium of the eye, which gives the characteristic color of the eye. Next, we will see about the disorders associated with the melanin. First, about the copper deficiency. As you know, the tyrosinase is a copper-dependent enzyme. From the tyrosinase, from the tyrosine, in the melanoblast, the tyrosinase acts on the tyrosine to form DOPA, right? So the first 2 steps involves the enzyme, similar enzyme, which is the tyrosinase. It is a copper-dependent enzyme. So in case of copper deficiency, the hair will be depigmented. What happens in case of intermittent copper deficiency? The patient will be having a flat type of hair. So in the normal period, they will be having a normal pigmentation. During the period of copper deficiency, it will be hypopigmented. So there will be an alternate areas of dark and white band, and this is termed as the flat type of hair, which I have discussed earlier in the copper class. The second disorder associated with the melanin is the leukoderma. In this picture, you could be able to view the white patches, right? So these are the leukodermic patches. In the pathogenesis here is the tyrosinase and the melanin forming cells. They were both absent from the epithelium. So first is we have seen about the copper deficiency in the hair. The patients will be having a hypopigmentation, and in the intermittent copper deficiency, there will be flat type pattern. In case of leukoderma, there will be a white patches. Next, we'll see about the albinism. Albinism is a Greek word derived from albino, which means the white color. So this in this, the tyrosinase is completely absent in the melanocyte all over the body. So the tyrosinase is absent, what happens? There will be no synthesis of melanin, and hence there will be hypopigmentation all over the body. So it is transmitted as an autosomal recessive trait, which means the homozygous, they experience a disease state, while the heterozygous, they are the carriers. And the incidence is found to be 1 per 20,000. In case of ocular, if you examine the ocular fundus on the skin, the patient's, it will be a hypopigmentation. Next, we'll see about the ocular changes in the albinism. If you examine the fundus, it will be hypopigmented. In the iris, this is a iris. It will be either gray or the red color. The patient presents with photophobia, which is sensitive to light, and nystagmus, which is the repetitive movements. The patient presents with photophobia, nystagmus, and decreased visual acuity. So what are all the causes of albinism? One is that there is a secondary failure of the melanoblast to colonize the cells. I have said the melanoblast or the neural crest origin, it need to have a dorsolateral migration. If there is failure in the migration, what happens? The melanoblast will not colonize the cells, and hence there will be hypopigmentation. The second cause is failure of the melanocyte to form the melanosome. Melanosomes are the lysosome-like organelles within the melanoblast, right? So if there is no melanosomes, no enzymes within the melanosomes, and hence no melanin formation. In case of the enzyme deficiency, or in case of the substrate deficiency, or if there is a failure of the melanosome to store and transport to the keratinocytes, the melanocytes has to synthesize the melanin, and it has to be distributed across the keratinocyte, right? So if there is a failure in the melanosome to store and transport to the keratinocyte, it is also a cause of albinism. And the last cause is the excessive destruction of the functional melanosomes. So these are all the causes of albinism. And there are three types of albinism. One is oculocutaneous albinism, and ocular albinism, and albinism due to other causes, which you will learn it later during your pathology classes. So there is a variant. The tyrosinase positive albinism is there, and the defect here is there is uptake of tyrosin by the melanocyte. Here the manifestation are less severe when compared to that of the other type. So not only albinism is present in the humans, it is also present in the animal and the plant kingdom. The other disorder associated with the melanin is the malignant melanoma. So it is a type of skin cancer. You will learn it later. So please remember, it's a type of skin cancer. So the melanoblast, which is present in the nevi, they convert it into malignant melanoma, which is a tumorous condition. So in this condition, there will be excretion of melanogen in the urine. Till now, we have seen about the melanin. Next, we will see about the other product derived from the tyrosin, which is the catecholamine. So catecholamines means it has a catechol nucleus. So this is the catechol nucleus. This is a benzene ring with the 2 OH group. So this, it is derived from the tyrosin. It includes what? Epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine. So where do they are produced? They are produced from the adrenal medulla and sympathetic ganglia. So from the tyrosin, this tyrosin is catalyzed by the enzyme tyrosin hydroxylase. It forms DOPA. So one OH group is attached to the tyrosin molecule. So I have said earlier in the phenylalanine class itself, this tetrahydrobiopterin is needed for the synthesis of dopamine and serotonin, and hence the neurological manifestation of phenylketonuria is due to the absence of this, right? So this tetrahydrobiopterin is a cofactor for tyrosin hydroxylase. So tyrosine catalyzed by the enzyme tyrosine hydroxylase, which needs tetrahydrobiopterin. It also needs iron and a molecular oxygen to form DOPA, that is dihydroxyphenylalanine. So this is catalyzed by the enzyme decarboxylase to form dopamine. Decarboxylase means there is a removal of carbon dioxide, right? So it forms a compound called as the dopamine. So this decarboxylase enzyme is pyridoxal phosphate dependent. Some few points about the dopamine are: it is an inhibitor of prolactin. It is a neurotransmitter present in the extrapyramidal tract and as well as in the substantia nigra and striatal tract. So the disorder associated with the dopamine is the condition called as Parkinsonism. In this condition, the dopamine content will be very much reduced. So treatment for this case is you cannot administer dopamine as it does not cross the blood-brain barrier. Hence, you have to administer it as the levodopa. So this is a drug of choice for treatment for patients with Parkinsonism. You cannot administer as a dopamine because it does not cross blood-brain barrier. Please remember this. So levodopa is given. The one more compound is the alpha methyl dopa. They inhibit the dopa decarboxylase enzyme, and hence dopa cannot be converted to dopamine, and hence there is no formation of epinephrine, and hence this substance is used as the antihypertensive agent. One more important point is dopamine AMP regulated phosphoprotein. We call it as DARP protein. So these protein is involved in the phosphorylation cascade involving the neuronal excitability. This is a basis for short-term and long-term memory. So from tyrosine, catalyzed by the enzyme tyrosine hydroxylase, it forms DOPA. DOPA catalyzed by dopa decarboxylase to form dopamine. This dopamine is catalyzed by the enzyme dopamine hydroxylase to form noradrenaline. So nor, which means it does not have a methyl group as compared to that of the adrenaline. So noradrenaline is synthesized from the dopamine. So dopamine catalyzed by the dopamine hydroxylase, which is also a oxygenase enzyme. It needs an ascorbate and the copper containing enzyme. It forms noradrenaline. This noradrenaline is catalyzed by the N-methyl transferase, otherwise known as PNMT. We call it as phenylethylamine N-methyl transferase. One methyl group is transferred to the noradrenaline to form adrenaline. So the difference between noradrenaline and adrenaline is one methyl group. This epinephrine or adrenaline, they are produced by the adrenal medulla, adrenergic endings, and they are stored in the chromaffin granules. So let's see about the functions of adrenaline and noradrenaline. They causes increase in blood pressure, and adrenaline, they increases the force and the rate of myocardial contraction. They relax the bronchi smooth muscles. As you know, they increases the blood glucose by glycogenolysis, and it also causes lipolysis. So these substances are released from the adrenal medulla during the condition of fright, flight, and fight. Next is about the degradation of the catecholamines. The half-life of catecholamine epinephrine is 2 to 5 minutes. So this epinephrine and norepinephrine, they are catabolized in the tissue by catechol O-methyl transferase. Here a methyl group is transferred to epinephrine and norepinephrine to form metanephrine and normetanephrine respectively from the epinephrine and norepinephrine. This is acted upon by monoamine oxidase to form vanillyl mandelic acid. Here there is oxidative deamination is taking place. So the end product of catecholamine is vanillyl mandelic acid. We call it as VMA. So noradrenaline is synthesized in the neurons, and from the tyrosine, dopa is formed. Dopa undergoes decarboxylation to form dopamine. This dopamine is packaged within the synaptic vesicles, or that is a storage vesicle. Why it has to packaged within the storage vesicle is that it is protected from the degradation. So this transport into the vesicle is inhibited by a substance called as reserpine. Here there is a block by the reserpine. Transport into the vesicle is blocked by the substance reserpine. So within the vesicle, norepinephrine and epinephrine are synthesized. Whenever there is a passage of action potential, calcium will influx of calcium. This influx of calcium will causes the fusion of this vesicle, which favors the exocytosis of the vesicle. So this fusion is prevented by the drug guanethidine and beryllium. So after the release of the catecholamines, they bind to the receptor, that is a postsynaptic receptor, and hence it passes the action potential. So what is the fate of noradrenaline that is released in the synaptic cleft is it can either reuptake can take place, and this reuptake is prevented by the drug imipramine and cocaine, or it can be metabolized to an inactive metabolites and they get excreted in the urine. The compound that is formed is the vanillin mandelic acid, which gets excreted in the urine. So how are we going to estimate the end product of catecholamine vanillin mandelic acid is normal excretion is it is 2 to 6 milligram per day. The condition in which it is elevated is increased epinephrine occurs the tumors of the adrenal medulla, which is the pheochromocytoma, and in neuroblastoma there is an elevation of norepinephrine. So its level has been influenced by some of the foodstuffs like chocolate, coffee, banana, vanilla ice creams, and citrus fruits, which contain a vanillin, and hence it has to be restricted before the estimation of the vanillin mandelic acid. Also, drugs with the phenol ring also interfere with its estimation. And you should remember one point is that excretion in the urine is not continuous, and hence you need 24-hour urine sample in order to estimate the vanillin mandelic acid. Please remember this point. 24-hour urine sample is necessary. So these are the vanillin mandelic acid is an end product of norepinephrine and epinephrine. So what is the end product of dopamine, which is the homovanillic acid, which is a methoxy hydroxy phenyl acetic acid. So the main urinary metabolite of dopa and dopamine is the homovanillic acid. It's also elevated in conditions like neuroblastoma and ganglioneuroma. So the prognosis here is if you estimate VMA and HVA, and if you take the ratio, if it is more than 1, it indicates a better prognosis. So VMA by HVA ratio, if it is more than 1, indicates a better prognosis. VMA is the end product of that is metabolite of the catecholamines like norepinephrine and epinephrine, while homovanillic acid is a metabolite of the dopamine and dopa. So the other product that is derived from the tyrosine is thyroid hormone. Till now we have seen about the product derived from tyrosine, which are melanin and catecholamines. Lastly, we'll see about the thyroid hormones. This tyrosine residue, this is a tyrosine residue, they get iodinated to form monoiodotyrosine. If you see 2 iodine group in a tyrosine moiety, it is called as a diiodotyrosine. So T3, which has a 3 iodine component, triiodothyronine, it's coupled by the, that is, it is produced by the coupling of monoiodotyrosine and diiodotyrosine to form triiodotyrosine. Mono and di to form triiodotyrosine. We will designate the iodine moiety as 3' if it is in the outer ring. In the inner ring, the number is designated as 3 and 5. So 3, 5, 3' triiodothyronine. And T4 is formed by the coupling of 2 diiodothyronines. So the outer ring, it is 3', 5'. The inner ring, the iodine is designated as 3 and 5. So 3, 5, 3', 5', tetraiodothyronine is T4. It is formed by the coupling of 2 diiodothyronine. Lastly, tyramine is also an end product of tyrosine. This is produced by the decarboxylation of tyrosine by the intestinal bacteria. These tyramine compounds, they are also present in some foodstuffs like chocolate, cocoa, dried fish, meat, buttermilk, cheese, papayas, and peanuts. So this tyramine will attack, that is, it precipitates an attack of migraine in a susceptible individuals, which is migraine is a type of headache, which you will learn it later. Please remember this tyramine, which causes the migraine, precipitates an attack of migraine. Till now, we have seen about the catabolism of phenylalanine and tyrosine and the special products derived from tyrosine. Let's see about the disorder associated with the tyrosine metabolism. First, we'll see about the alkaptonuria. Alkaptone which means in the Greek, it is called as the alkali. They suck up oxygen greedily in the oxygen greedily in presence of alkali. So in case of alkaptonuria, it is transmitted as an autosomal recessive triad. Here the homozygous is a disease state and heterozygous is a carrier. So the defect here is the deficiency of the enzyme homogentisate oxidase. Here the homogentisic acid cannot be converted to mallyl acetoacetic acid, and because of this block there is an accumulation of homogentisic acid and it is excreted in the urine. So the defect here is the deficiency of the enzyme homogentisate oxidase in case of alkaptonuria. So the abnormality here is the blackening of the urine on standing. This is a normal urine. This is the urine from the alkaptonuric patient. So initial collection is found to be normal. On exposure to air, it turns into black color, right? So there is oxidation of the homogentisic acid. So blackening of urine on standing occurs in case of alkaptonuria. This alkaptonuria is a component of Garrett's tetrad. The other components being albinism, pentasuria, and cystinuria. So the Garrett's tetrads includes alkaptonuria, albinism, pentasuria, and cystinuria. So there is an accumulation of homogentisic acid, right? So homogentisate oxidase is a defective accumulation of homogentisic acid. They get converted into or they oxidized to form a product called as benzoquinone acetate. It is not a harmful substance. Instead, it causes only the blackening of the urine. On a longer term, they get polymerized and they bound to the connective tissue, leading to the formation of alkaptone bodies. This is a picture showing blackening of black pigment getting deposited in the intervertebral disc called as the alkaptone bodies. So this is a picture showing the urine of the alkaptonuric patients. Initially, there is the color discoloration at the upper layer. On standing after almost 2 hours, the entire urine is converted into a black color, right? So in the third or the fourth decade of life, the patient develops a condition called as ochronosis. Here there is a deposition of the alkaptone bodies. The alkaptone bodies are formed by the homogentisic acid on oxidation to form benzoquinone acetate. They polymerized to form alkaptone bodies. They get deposited in the intervertebral disc. And cartilage of the pinna as well as in the nose. So the black pigment gets deposited in the connective tissues and joint cavities, producing arthritis. What is the treatment for this condition is there is no specific treatment, and we need to ask the patient to minimally intake the phenylalanine, which should be less than 500 milligram per day. How are we going to diagnose the alkaptonuria? So you can do the urine examination. Urine, they turn into a black color on standing, and Benedict's test, it is going to give a false positive test. So it's one of the non-carbohydrate component that gives false positive with the Benedict's test, which we have discussed in the glucose estimation, right? So alkaptonuria, it gives the Benedict's test positivity. Also, you can do a ferrichloride test, which I have discussed in phenylalanine, right? You need to take the fresh urine and you need to add 2 to 3 drops of ferrichloride to the urine. And if you see a transient blue color development, it is a positive test, but it is a less reliable test. Next, we'll see about the other disorder. called as hypertyrosinemias. There are many types. We will see one by one. First is the hepatorenal type, which is the type 1 tyrosinemia. It is also transmitted as an autosomal recessive trait, with the statistics being 1.5 per thousand. The enzyme deficiency here is fumarate acetoacetate hydrolase. The formed fumarate acetoacetate has to get hydrolyzed to acetoacetic acid, which enter into the ketogenic pathway, and fumaric acid, which enter into the glucogenic pathway, right? So the deficiency of the enzyme fumarate acetoacetate hydrolase leads to the accumulation of fumarate acetoacetic acid. So these two substances, they get accumulated in the body and they are alkylating agent. So they will damage the DNA. Also, the patient will have a symptoms of cabbage-like odor and hypoglycemia. So the product will not enter into the glucogenic pathway and hence hypoglycemia. Also, the patient presents with mild mental retardation. Some of the examiners will be asking questions like a cabbage-like odor is seen in which condition. You need to ask, you need to answer them as the tyrosinemia type 1. How are you going to diagnose this condition is, if you examine the urine, there is the accumulation of para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, para-hydroxyphenyl. This phenylpyruvic acid will get excreted, enter into the alternative minor pathway, and hence para-hydroxyphenylactic acid will be excreted in the urine. In the serum, if you examine, there will be high tyrosine content, and the treatment for this disorder is tyrosine and phenylalanine restricted diet should be there. Next type is the oculocutaneous tyrosinemia. It comes under type 2 category. The enzyme defect here is the tyrosine aminotransferase. So after the formation of tyrosine, it undergoes transamination to form para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, right? So this enzyme is defective here, and hence there is accumulation of the tyrosine. So oculocutaneous, which means that both the eye and the skin is going to get affected. So the patient presents with mental retardation and the skin changes, which are the keratosis on the palmar surface, and the eye lesions are the painful corneal lesions, and sensitivity to light, which is otherwise known as the photophobia. If you examine their urine, there will be increased tyrosine content, and this tyrosine is converted into tyramine in the intestine fermented by the bacteria. So increased tyrosine and the tyramine excretion in the urine, and treatment you need to give the patient on low protein diet. The next type is the neonatal type. The enzyme defect here is the para-hydroxyphenylpyruvate hydroxylase deficiency. Here para-hydroxyphenylpyruvic acid cannot be converted into dihydroxyphenylpyruvic acid, which is a homogenetic acid. In type 1, there is fumarate acetoacetate hydrolase defect. In type 2, tyrosinase transaminase defect. In case of neonatal tyrosinemia, para-hydroxyphenylpyruvate hydrolase defect. This is a transient condition. It causes transient tyrosinemia. The treatment here for this patient, you need to administer ascorbic acid and the low protein diet. So these are the disorders associated with the phenylalanine and tyrosine metabolism. One is the phenylketonuria, and during the conversion formation of melanin from tyrosine, and the tyrosinase defect will causes the albinism. In thyroid synthesis, if there is a block, patient presents with the cretinism, and alkaptonuria, homogenetic acid oxidase defect. And you need to discuss about the hypertyrosinemias. These are my references.